Welcome to the State of the Game, and we are joined by two fellow friends of the community. I'm really happy and excited to introduce. First off, we've got Pronder over here. Say hello, Pronder. And we're joined by Bammers as well. Bammers making an appearance on camera on the stream.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you, Bammers. So yeah, we're talking about a whole bunch of things tonight. Lots of stuff to cover. I don't even know where to begin. The topics, there's a lot of topics tonight. So let's first jump into the patch that went up today. Probably the most important thing we can do. And it wasn't a huge patch, but it was one that people were asking for quite a long time. Involving things like the fixes to social, right? Which was an issue has been an issue for a long time. Broadsword pushed that out today. Now social is working. Really happy about that. Some fixes to the CMs, which is our market explorers. And some other things. Do you guys have, maybe we'll start with you, Pronder. Are there things like on your particular end that you see about this patch that is noteworthy?
The biggest thing I'm happy about as someone that frequents Kaharis is the social window, because that's been killing us trying to help casuals pick up. There's so many people that are new to the game or returning after a really long time. They're used to that just working, and that's awesome. Very happy that that came about. The thing that I'm probably the most excited about isn't even the patch itself. And some people may think I'm silly for saying this, but I'm happy that Beeb was able to tell us that it was coming. And we had all weekend to hype ourselves up about it or whatever before the patch notes came out. And I like that there was communication that, hey, this is coming. That was really important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bammers, what about you? Is there something in particular that popped up that was really interesting about 1.127?
The solo quest RP bonus that made me so happy to see. I didn't expect it. Like, we had been talking about it for weeks that they were going to do something for it, but we didn't know what it was. I mean, I logged on earlier. I ran for like 45 minutes, completed my solo quest, and made like 80K, and I haven't done that in a long time. So I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I can imagine that you would be. There's all sorts of stuff here. There's new mithril items, which are really cool. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see the snow fox and the wings, but you know, mithril items are always exciting, and I know they keep improving on them and continue. Yeah, so one of the things that we didn't get a chance really to touch on was the Grobo Theron PC. Grobo was a really significant member of the community. Did a ton of work creating content from very early on, very early on. And unfortunately, we lost Grobo, I want to say it was about a month and a half ago. And Broadsword has stepped in and put a memorial in place on all three realms in the Relic Towns. And it's quite cool. And Segan, his cat, is by his side, which is awesome. There are a couple of other small things, changes to like the healer stun radius, changing magic resist debuff types for the Cabby body debuff, or maybe I think it was all of the debuffs it could be on Cabby. Just some small stuff here and there. But you know, there was a tease a while ago in, I think, the newsletter from Carol about upcoming changes to keeps. And maybe some things beyond what they had done with the obelisk. So I'm kind of interested to see what comes out of that too. It could be a whole bunch of other stuff. So let me go. Well, first off, have you guys had a chance to Pronder and to Bammers? I sent over this link. There's a ton of topics to go through today, like a ton. And
yeah.
The ones after the break here are ones that were submitted through the forum, and then there's some stuff that's been sent in through a letter that was written, a very detailed letter, and we'll try and get through some of that tonight. But there's some really cool questions. So go ahead.
Before we get there, Ramick, I did want to say one more thing about the NPC quest for Grobo. I actually reached out to Viven in Discord to say thank you as well, because this is one of the reasons why I love this game. It's why I love this community. It's why I love everything that we have going on here, because he was a huge resource to the community. And we've seen this before where Mythic and since then Broadsword have put in memorials in game for people that had been active members of the community in different ways. And I was just really heartened to see this. And I know people were asking for it shortly after Grobo passed, and I was glad to see them not only come through with it, but to give it meaning. This isn't an NPC that's just chilling in a capital city. Everybody is going to go see Grobo every day when they log in on Ewain. I'm not sure how well this would play into Gaheris with the difference in how RPs are earned over there. I haven't been able to go check that out yet, but I love that Ewain players are going to be going and saying hi to him and his cat pretty much every day when they log in. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really.
I think that's amazing. Really well said.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that was really well said.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's something else, and the idea that they're tying in these new changes or these new weekly quests, and these are I haven't had a ton of time to dig in game, but just really briefly, these quests, the weekly roaming with friends requires, I believe, 500 kills. And then the solo road, Bammers, do you have an idea, or maybe you do, Pronder, about how many kills it takes to get through the solo road? Do you guys know by chance?
I haven't had a chance to log in.
I just grabbed the quest. But I didn't even look.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll have to circle back on that. But I think it's
50 solo kills.
50 solo kills.
You have to get in 10 in EV or ruined maze areas.
Okay.
So it's the solo quest 5 times.
Not unachievable.
10 times, sorry.
I don't think it's unachievable, especially to hardcore solo, or is it? And
no.
With Broadsword, we know that they are watching and paying attention, and I'm sure that over the course of time that number could change, right? It's who knows at this point. They could lower it, they could raise it, depending on how many people complete it. They're keeping a very close eye. But the segue to that was how awesome it is that they put these new quests on the Grobo NPC. Like, that's a really cool memorial, and people will be going to that NPC at least twice a week, so, or at least once, I suppose, if not twice. But it's very cool. And it's got a prominent position inside the Relic Towns, which is amazing. Really quickly, just because I don't want to ignore chat here, Baba Malama says, I'd say 25 for a weekly quest. He thinks it's a little high. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has any feedback on that. But I just, I think it's an interesting place to start, right? And
I think it's high for the casual solo player. But if you're someone who solos regularly, I don't think it's that high. Like, if you look at like Lou and stuff, who is putting out 247 solos a week, I mean, that's a fifth of his solos. So I don't think it's that outrageous.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think it's.
But if you're, an hour a day.
Right. Well, there's not a timer on it, is it? You keep the quest until you finish the quest, right? So even if you are a casual player, like when I do solo, it's usually on a stealth tune. I'm usually by myself, and I don't stream it because I suck. So it might take me 6 months to do that.
Sure. Yeah, understandable. Baba Malama says in chat, but do you balance it for someone who spends 5 hours a day on it, or 1 or 2? I think that's the thing that Broadsword has to grapple with, is who exactly to target with this. Because it's so tough, because there's different levels of commitment across all different play styles of this game, between soloers and zergers, And how do you find a happy medium? And I think it's just a matter of letting it happen, rolling it out, and
It's just like the obelisk. They roll it out. They're sisterly testing in production. So they're going to see how this shakes out. They're going to take feedback in Discord just like they did with the obelisk. They'll see how this works and take feedback from the community and probably tweak it a little bit moving forward. It may or may not stay stagnant, but they do have the capability to tweak that. They could also, if they wanted to make it not too OP for people that can play all the time, they could lower it to say 50, but make it to where you can only redeem it once every X number of hours or something along those lines, so that you're not having the people that can play 12 hours a day repeatedly almost power leveling on a quest versus a casual that can only maybe do 3 or 4. I mean, there's all different kinds of nuances they could consider.
Sure, yeah. And AK Extraterrestrial says, I'd contend if the progression was resetting each week, then it's high. Assuming credit carries over from week to week, then in his opinion, it's fine. You knock it out over a couple weeks. UCPRS says, the game is and always has been centric around realm play, not specific to a group, and definitely not solo. Bob Amalama says, true, you're right. It's a good starting point, best to start. Maybe a little high, didn't see it that way, and good point, ET. So we'll see. It's one of those things like the obelisk, right? When it came out, there were people in certain play styles that almost lost their mind over this buff that was going to prevent 50% or 75% of damage on keep lord rooms and roofs and inner oil. I was one of those folks. I'm like, I don't know about this. And I had a conversation with Legan when it first came out. Legan actually did a special edition of the podcast with me. And he's like, I don't know how this is going to work. And it turns out that it didn't make I think it made more of a psychological difference. And they tweaked it a lot, right? I mean, Pronder, I think they made changes to that a ton within the first week, right?
I was actually off work the Friday that went live and was out with Legan and with some folks from the EU BG as well. And we were actively providing feedback in Discord, and he was like, thanks for the info. We're going to go tweak it a little bit. And literally the second fight that we had between the mids and the hibs, it had been changed. They were literally that on the ball with it, which was awesome from a community interaction standpoint. I would imagine that something like this is, if people submit feedback, they're going to listen. This is the patch that just went live, so it's what they are going to publicly care about the most from the community is feedback on that. So if you have ideas or suggestions, then you send them and explain why. Don't just say, I don't like X. Give a reason. If you have a suggestion for something, explain your thought process. I've seen some really great, long, thought out, detailed posts on the forums about things. And then you see other things where it's like, I don't like X, and that's it. Or it's just a troll. So it helps when people can provide constructive criticism and have a potential course of action. Don't just present a problem without a potential solution.
Yeah, I completely agree. Devs look at this from a 5,000-foot view. We've seen, the reasoning behind some of these decisions that they've made. Oftentimes we're left scratching our head and we're left to figure it out later on. But there's always a reason. And coming with a reason and not just an emotional reaction is really crucial to providing good feedback. There's some folks in chat talking about whether it's good time to come back solo or not. We're going to get into all that. I want to very quickly just switch over to the topic suggestions that were sent over, because there's a lot to cover here. I'm going to go through. We're going to start at number 8. And we're going to work our way down. Then we're going to go up and talk a little bit about a letter that was sent in, a very detailed, lengthy, beautiful letter that was sent into the stream. And I'm going to read some of it, not all of it, and certainly going to, we've got a bunch of stuff that needs to be answered. So the first question is, do you think that the length between patches and small tweaks that are needed for the current player base is worth putting off over the promise of a new server that we are left in the dark about? That's I'm gonna Bammers. Let me, because I know how Pronder feels about this, and I want to go to him. But let me go to you first about that. Do you think that the length between patches and small tweaks are needed for the current player base is worth putting off the new server?
I think it's dependent on what it means by putting off. So like, I don't think that you should give up on like large scale patches. I don't agree with the once every week or two you get a patching. I think that a major patch, even if it's just once a year, and then in that year have one a month that's a small bug fix or something along those lines, just to keep it interesting for the people who are playing. They don't get burnt out nearly as easy if they still see that there's stuff coming and stuff changing on a daily basis or a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. Just anything that's not going 6-8 months at a time without change, people start to really burn out. And I've seen that in a few other games.
Yeah, I've talked about this in prior State of the Games where there's a line that I think you draw between like useless patches with content that, or not even content, with like bug fixes that don't ultimately matter. That's, I think, what the heart of the question is, right? And content and events and stuff that are really quite interesting to the community. It's like, where do you allocate those resources? And I agree that there should be more patches, but on the other hand, well, I'll give you my 10 cents. Pronder, I know that you've got some feelings on this because you shared them with me in the past. So tell me what you think about that.
I think it's a combination of both. I think you have to take care of your actively subscribed playing population. So things like the social bug, for example, people have been extremely vocal about that. It would have been great to have a little bit more info other than it's coming. And anything like that affects quality of life, especially if it was broken because of a patch, to me, that should be a priority to fix. It's nice to get the new mithril items, and I'm going to go out and get my little snow fox and my ghost wings or whatever they are, because that looks just awesome. But what you kind of have to take care of your existing player base before you worry about trying to draw a new one. And you don't need a massive patch every month, but it would be nice to see something like what's on the bug tracker. All right, once a month, here's a hot fix. Well, maybe we only fixed 2 things, but it's 2 things that were broken that now aren't, that have progressed things, that the community that actually cares to help report problems and put things on the Trello board to make life better for everyone. It shows that not only are they watching and paying attention, but that the frequency of those fixes is, even if it's only 1 or 2 a month, that's better than saving it all up, bottling it up for a big patch, and then having to go tweak the snot out of it. Incremental bug fixes are always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. God's Demon in chat says patches equal resources and costs. Bugs go into a queue of what is most to least priority. We don't feel that way because we play the game, but that's the realization of it all. Whereas Sticky says, I found a DAoC Trello board that tracks bugs today. I don't know how current it is, though. In fact, it is very, very current. And if you haven't been to this site, I would highly encourage that you go check it out. It's actually available right on the homepage of darkageofcamelot.com. And you can become somebody you could be a bug submitter. I don't know what the term would be here, but you could join the Trello board on request, and you too can add a list of things that you feel are bugs, and Broadsword will make a determination based on what when you post it, whether it is there or whether it's a legitimate bug or not. It's great to see, like really great to see the 1.127C and the bug fixes today. My hope is that we will see more of this kind of small incremental patch stuff, even if go ahead, Pronder.
Point in case, the fixed internal yesterday was populated with things that were in the patch today that are now in the released live column. So this is extremely current.
That's awesome. That's really great news. They do, I think they work off of this pretty religiously. So having being able to, as a player, to go in and look at their tracker, I think is people will say that Broadsword are not transparent, and in some cases, like I do think that they should. In fact, that's a topic that is going to come up. I do think they should be. Certainly, John of all of the folks at Broadsword should be more vocal, but they are very transparent in some of the bugs, or at least the bug stuff that they're fixing. I want to talk about Classic Server and all that stuff in a little bit. Bob Amalama, really quickly, I just want to switch back to chat. Bob Amalama says most bugs are caused by changes at this point. Not many new bugs appear in a 20-year-old game naturally. If you do a change patch, fix patch, etc., that should solve itself. Gear Bunny Classic says, DAoC over its history has been shown to be one of the most hot fixable games ever made. I don't see why they can't do them more often. I think it's just... so maybe on this topic we pivot really quickly and we talk about the Classic Server. There's a ton of information that we have covered over the last month or so about the Classic Server on the state of the game. Here's what we know so far. Just a brief recap. And this is probably why, my guess, right? I don't know all the information, but my guess is that they haven't been producing these bug fixes and hot fixes as often because they've been so focused and dedicated on working on this Classic Server. So let's talk about what we know so far. John, in a post-count post several years ago, suggested it would be pre-TOA. Last year, there was and I don't know if I've got, I don't know if I've got those patch notes or the grab bag from last year, but actually it was 2 years ago now. Back in December of 2019, they specifically laid out what their plans were. And also they mentioned a series of alternative rule set or different kinds of servers in addition to Classic that they were hoping to launch with this. Over the course of the last several weeks, we've talked about rumors of what this new Classic Server would look like. And it's my guess and opinion, it's strictly it's not related to fact at all. It is just an assumption and it's speculation that this server is going to be more than what people make it out to be. People think Classic Server and they think they're just going to take an archive of 1.65 and they're going to slap it on on an EC2, a couple of EC2 instances and call it a day. And I don't think that is what's happening. Everything that has happened over the last 6 months leads me to believe that there's more going on behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised to see if there was a major rewrite of the back end. I would not be surprised to see that. I would not be surprised to see them making significant changes so that things like, case in point, the new Camelot Herald, which has been talked about for, I think, 5 years now. The new Herald can be powered by this new back. Why build out an integration with the current Herald when you're just going to, on a roadmap that you've got internally, develop a brand new server, a brand new back end, and then build out the new Herald around it? Why, all of these things that we've seen over the course of time, these delays, right? They actually mean something. It's not that Broadsword's slacking off. To me, it says there's a lot more coming. I don't know. Let me go to Pronder first on this. Pronder, do you have any thoughts about kind of what you've seen in terms of the new Classic Server?
So, my cat wants to say hi.
Oh, hello.
He decided to jump up in my lap, so he had to get his screen time in real quick. So I think specifically that what Broadsword has announced about Ultima Online is very telling about what they are planning to do for Dark Age of Camelot. I know I've linked that in previous State of the Games where you can go read on UO.com about what's being done for the Ultima Online game itself. Something else specifically about that, and there was a comment in chat about that. They, I think it was UCP said that Broadsword's probably focused on UO because that's their moneymaker. Bevan has said in her streams specifically that there is a UO team and there's a DAoC team. So that's been officially answered, that there are dedicated Dark Age of Camelot resources at Broadsword that are allocated to delivering something for the community. So my assumption is that it's not going to be nothing and that they're actually working on a something. And we've all seen over the years how complicated it is to maintain this game, and what the nuances of that are. And so it would make complete sense to me that they would want to go through the monumental exercise to modernize their code base. Just, I mean, ultimately, Broadsword's a business, and they have to be able to continue to draw subscribers and to support us, so that we can keep coming back and playing. And the best way to do that long term, if you're not just looking to keep it around for 1 or 2 years, but if, like, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Dark Age of Camelot later this year, it's literally going to have been around for half my life. And I, for one, would love to see it around for another 20 years. And you can't do that if you don't modernize your code base. So I would love to think that that's something that's going on, that they're paying attention to, and that they're being cognizant of what abilities that's going to provide them moving forward. I mean, this, I think the last time that the game client itself was updated from like an engine perspective and a coding, it's still using, like, I think Visual Studio 2003. So it's kind of a hope and a prayer when there's client updates that 17-year-old compilation tools are still working. And so I hope that they're modernizing their infrastructure. This game was not designed to run in the cloud, and they've managed to shoehorn it into AWS. That causes glitches along the way too, because it is cheaper to run it in AWS, but at the same time, they're at the mercy of the internet. So you've seen the issues with people having to purchase VPNs to get better connectivity to Amazon, since they're not running their own servers anymore and things like that. So I'm hopeful. As someone that does software development for a living, I know the kind of decisions that I would want to make strategically for a project like this. And I personally believe there are a lot of really smart people that love this game that work at Broadsword. And I hope that they have the same type of a vision for this game that the people that love this community do as well.
On that note, you brought up a really important point, which was the how long the game has been around in your life. And I saw Bammers smile a little bit. There's that smile right there. I think Bammers has been around in this game a little bit less than you and I, but Bammers has a ton of opinions on this, and I'd be curious to know, Bammers, what you think about this. You know, all of these sort of hints and speculation, right, that have been flooding the interwebs, and what you're really excited about for this new classic server.
So this game's been around coming up on 20 years. I've been around 18. So this game's quite literally been around longer than I have. And I would love to see it go on, like Ponder said, for another 20. It's been by far the most fun game I've ever played. And I really am looking forward to trying the classic server. The only thing I have to really worry about is I hope that they don't split the population with it. And I think that they have plans to find ways to work around that. But I mean, I don't really know how much more I can add other than I like the speculation. I think it's really interesting. I think it adds a lot of conversation, and I think it brings up a lot of options for them to go with.
Yeah,
I think no matter what, and I think what they're doing is great.
I agree completely, and that's a concern I think that a lot of people share, which is what is going to happen to the population as time goes on. What is Broadsword going to do to bring people back in, and what is that, you know, what does that look like? So I talked about this a little bit. I had a very, very, very brief stream today, just out of sort of jest, when the servers did not come up, and at least on the time that they suggested that they would. And people were really concerned about what it was going to look like in terms of population and splitting this population. Here's what I'll say. There's a market cap for this game. There's an existing player base beginning from 2001 all the way until now, right, that have played the official servers all around the world. EU, US, people literally all over in Asia. I mean, this game is worldwide, and there are people in every continent, well, almost every continent, that play the game. So you've got this existing player base. Then, right, add on to it the people that are playing on free shards, that are interested not in the free aspect of it, but in the particular kind of environment that is, right? Maybe the time frame or the features of the game. And you've got folks that are currently sub to the game that are not playing at the moment. And that's like in the thousands There are thousands and thousands of active subs. Like, I think Amadora did a bit on this in the forums. And it was what? Something like 6,000 to 8,000 if you were just kind of taking into account what is in housing, which is not a perfect representation. So I think that there's an existing group of folks that would come over and join this classic server. I think depending on what happens with Uane and what happens with these other servers, it might evolve from there. And we were talking earlier today about what we thought, we kind of hoped that the numbers would be on this new server. And I think a reasonable expectation is probably somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people. Yeah, I mean, there are people that don't want to play free shards because they're pirated versions of the game, but enjoy Classic that would love to come back to an official server. If you are in the official Discord, every 5 seconds there's somebody different asking questions about when Classic's going to come back. I think there's a huge draw to this. I want to, unless you guys have some doubt, if we can, I want to move on to chat and just get caught up a little bit, if that's okay. God's Demon is talking about rewriting the RA descriptions. For sure, delves need some work, and if you've got suggestions on delves that need to be, information delves that need to be changed, you should submit feedback on darkageofcamelot.com and offer your suggestions. There's a lot of RAs, a lot of spells. There's still weird text in some of them, and, you really need a team of people to look at this, so if you see something, say something.
Put it on the Trello board.
Yeah.
Don't just drop it in Discord. Go put it on the Trello board if you find something that's squirrely. And it'll go from an unconfirmed bug to a confirmed bug, or it'll go into that's not really an issue, Kyle, one of the two. But if it doesn't make it into Trello or into the bug tracker channel on Discord, nobody's really going to do anything with it. But the Trello board's the best place to report a bug.
Sure. Absolutely. It is the place that I think gets checked most often. And there are a lot of people in the official Discord that will take stuff out of the bug report the bug report channel and drop it in for you. So always better to go to Trello. If not, put it on Bug Tracker, see if somebody or the bug reports Discord and try to get somebody to confirm that they'll add it to Trello for you. And it sounds like God's Demon said that he's been working on that. Bob Amalama says, why don't they relaunch? That's a great idea. Look at how some of the old game relaunches have helped. Maybe you guys have opinions on this, but from my point of view, I see this as a relaunch. I see them doing a large scale relaunch. Maybe not in the traditional sense, but there's going to be a lot of PR. There's going to be a lot of word of mouth, a lot of excitement about this. And I think it actually will turn into a launch event. I think this is farther ahead than people are willing to admit or people are willing to give Broadsword credit for. I really do. They had all of 2020 to work on this, given COVID and everything else that was happening in the world. They had to push it off, but I don't think we're far out from seeing something. I really don't. I could be completely wrong about that, and you might come back in 6 months and say, Ramek, you're a moron, but my hope is that I'm right about this, and I can say that you're wrong to some of the other folks out there. Jay Catter, go ahead, Pronder.
I'm hoping, based on Beaven's comment, that there will be news in the spring about something, that really means by the end of March that there is some more info other than coming soon.
Yeah. I think the indications are that we'll hear something pretty soon. And spring is not all that far off. As much as I'd like to contain winter, because I love the snow for as long as I can, spring is really not that far away. Jay Catteron says they can't repair most of the bugs because they don't know their own code. So, look, I told you I don't shy away from difficult conversations. I do think Broadsword knows the code as better than anybody, certainly, and as well as anybody else that's out there. Especially the code that they're working on, which is the C++ server backend, the game client. They're the only people that touch the game client. Free shards can't go near the game client. So these folks are the people that know all of it. Now, are there hurdles like TOA that hasn't been touched for 10 years? Sure, there are always going to be hurdles, but I think that they actually do know quite a bit more than some of the folks in Discord and certainly in Twitch chat would like to admit. The other thing, one last point about this. They've hired people in the last year. They've added people that would normally not be working on, and you can do your own digging and figure this out for yourselves, but they've hired people in the recent year and a half that I don't think would be super helpful to just maintain C++. I think that there's more going on here. And if you think about an entire rewrite at the back end, which again is total speculation, but that would mean that a lot of these bugs that exist today probably won't exist tomorrow. And also might be a reason why they haven't fixed some of the more difficult stuff. Is because there's a reason why, and it's because why fix it on this archaic back end when you can reinvent the wheel. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, we're gonna move on real quick. Talk about are they catering to solos? This is a chat topic, believe it or not. And thanks to even though I'm giving you crap, thanks for submitting this. Are they catering to solos by adding another solo quest via the weekly? Yeah, I do think that they're catering to solos in the way that they know how without there being abuse, right? We have talked on this State of the Game about Ripweed in the past. We've talked about other people that have farmed their own tunes. They have to be very cautious about what they put in because it's one of the easier things, at least in my mind, to exploit. So yeah, they're catering to solos the best way that they know how, I think, without, a major balance shift. And maybe there will be more stuff in the future, but this is a big step. I don't know, Bammers, what do you think? I mean, from your point of view, is this, does this make you want to go out and run more on your Shadowblade?
Absolutely. That's like the first thing that came to mind whenever I had heard about the potential change when I saw the change for the first time, first thing I did was boot up a solo class and start running. I thought that was a huge plus, was that encouraged solo for a lot. I think it will for a lot more people because the current state of the game, you'd run for 2 hours and make 20K because there was just no incentive to solo. If you weren't finding consistent action that you could win, then you weren't getting any RPs at all. And really, you're playing, having an incentive to when you do get those kills, they do add up. You do get these bonuses. I think that's catering to the population as a whole and not just the solo community, because the soloers are a part of the entire community. I think people don't seem to realize that. A lot of the players who do solo also do small mans, also do groups, also do zerging. They do a little bit of everything. And I think when you encourage every play style, more people are more likely to have fun and stay playing the game in general. That's it.
Sure. Pronder, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that the entire community has to support each other. So I've said it before in chat as well. Without BGs, 8-mans don't thrive. Without 8-man, small mans don't thrive. And without small man, solos don't thrive. And without solos, the other solos can't thrive. So it is an ecosystem that has to play together. It's always been that way. And anything they can do to get the people that love to solo to stop going, dang it, I just got rolled again, and get them to log back in and go back out there again, that helps perpetuate everyone else enjoying their play style as well. Everybody plays this game for different reasons, different classes, different ways, and anything that they can do that's not quote unquote OP, I think is a good thing. Be it catering to solos or catering to small mans or 8-mans or whatever. And I think they felt the need here to emphasize some love for solos, and I think that was warranted.
Yeah, that's a fair point. There's some conversation in chat going on about, and I'm not going to get a chance because we've got a lot to cover to go over all of these comments. But Jay Cateron was essentially saying, I think, and thanks UCP for kind of bridging the gap here. They keep adding code to manage the existing code, and that actually might be true. It might be more true. It might be more likely that they're doing this because I mean, if it's the case, and again, pure speculation, because they know that there's something bigger coming on down the road, right? This is, if they are in fact doing all of these big changes to the game, they've known about it and been planning to do this for a long time, and it's been a very well kept secret. And I think the closer you get to launch day, the harder it is to keep that secret, because people start putting pieces of the puzzle together. Anyway, some of this chat conversation kind of spills into the next topic, which is, can we talk about side styles, and can you do it without a cheat code? I don't. Yes, positionals, you can absolutely land positionals without it. There are no there's no Game Shark for DAoC. Just like for those who remember what a Game Shark was. You can absolutely land positionals. And Bammers can probably talk a little bit more about this and tactics and techniques, but it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. In PvE, I think it's way more difficult, but in RVR, it just takes practice. Bammers, I know that you've got opinions on this. Tell me what you think. Is it absolutely impossible? Are we like kidding ourselves with the idea that side styles don't work because you can't land them?
I mean, I don't know. The way I kind of look at it is like I solo all the time on Shadowblade, and I have never really had any problems landing side stuns. I don't even, on a lot of my classes that I have positionals on, I don't even run a anytime style because more damage and get more growth rates out of side styles or rear styles, and so I just did everything I could do it, just maximize your stress, and I don't have to use anything. I don't use anything to cheat to let me get them more. It's just practice is all it is. The way I learned how to do it, I got a bot or another person or something along those lines to stick to me, stuck to you, and then go from there. That's how I learned how to do it. Every time I practice movements with my hand on, and once you've done a run or two, you're back into the groove. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. Is it's just practice.
UCP says strafing is a key on your keyboard with mouse turning. Who else said something about strafing? So the idea with strafing, right? There are a lot of people that just keyboard turn with the four keys. Sorry, I can count 4 keys, arrow keys on the keyboard. And people, like, I've always played DAoC like it's a first person shooter, WASD, and I've always mouse turned. And so maybe it's for people who have just learned a keyboard turn, it's significantly harder. Well, I imagine it would be a lot harder to land side styles. But if you're strafing and you're using, your A and D keys to go left and right, and you're turning with your mouse, it's got to be significantly easier for you. And there are a lot of people that play with the keyboard turn, and I don't know how they do it, but they do somehow.
They play casters.
They play Well, yeah. There are, in fact, it's funny that you say that, because there are people I know who play tanks who keyboard turn. Thou shalt not be named on the stream, but there are actually people that do that.
We've seen it in group chat before where people have owned up to it. But I mean, I tuned into Bammer's stream one night, and we were just BSing, and somebody point blank asked him, "So how do you actually do this?" And he spent 15 minutes showing us, everybody that was watching the stream, all right, here's how you move your mouse around. Turn left this time, go right the next time so that you don't run out of mouse mat space. Learn to mouse turn versus keyboard turn. A lot of people also forget that face instantly stops you and points you at your target. It doesn't necessarily help so much with landing a side style, but it is a key function of the game that a lot of people, for some reason in forums and stuff, don't seem to realize. So just learning the basic movements of the game. Like, sometimes I wish people would just roll a tune and actually go through all of the starter quests that you get in the new user journey, just to get a quick refresher on, here's all the stuff that Broadsword is telling you should know just to play the game. And I'm sure there's YouTube videos with that content as well, but there's a lot of really good info in those starting out journeys to help you if you actually read it.
Yeah, and I want to make a clarifying point here that keyboard turning is not necessarily like if you keyboard turn. Nobody's saying that you're a bad player, but you're probably not landing if you're playing a anything that melees with a side style. You're probably not getting, the full benefit. Although I guess you could keyboard turn and face, but nobody's suggesting that people who keyboard turn are bad players. It's just you're inherently going to have issues trying to land side styles. And that's you're going to have issues with a lot of things, but people have overcome obstacles that are greater than keyboard turning. Where's Sticky asked in chat, what do you use the Q and E for when you're not using keys to turn? Q for me is attack and E is auto run. Do you guys have what's, out of curiosity, Bammers, and then I'll go to you, Pronder. What's your attack key, and what's your what do you use the maybe the top 6 keys on the top of your keyboard for? The Q, W, E, A, S, D.
So I actually have a Logitech mouse that has, this is the mouse right here. Now that I'm on camera, I can actually show it. It has 12 buttons, and there's a third button right here. And if you hold this button down, this becomes 12 more buttons. So in my case, I actually have all my movement on my mouse. So stick, face, sprint, auto run, target nearest enemy, target the last attack. So that means my entire life. So I have Q, E, R, T, F, G, Z, X, C, V, tab, the little tilde, all F1 through 4 keys. All those are Shadow Blade. I run Pincer and Leaper, bound as Q and Control Q. So when I move, I can move with my mouse and still hurting something else.
Sure. I will say that for me as well, although I don't have a separate, I'm kind of wishing that this mouse, although actually this mouse might have the feature of having being able to activate 12 separate keys. I do have an MMO mouse here that I use, and I literally live off of it. Pronder, what about you, real quick? What's your go-to?
See if the cord's long enough. I've got a, nope, it's not. I've got a Razer Naga MMO mouse, so I've got the 12 buttons on the thumb as well as the tiltable scroll wheel. Pretty much all of my movement is either WASD or done with the mouse. I use 10 for whatever my favorite style is on the mouse to do stuff. My scroll wheel to the right is auto run. My scroll wheel to the left is face.
Wow. Usually
I'm spamming the snot out of assist, which is the first mouse button right above the wheel. The one right below that is to capture a screenshot.
You've got a dedicated screenshot button? That's cool.
Yeah, when you do PvE raids and stuff, it's kind of handy. Like I said earlier, I play on Gaheris a bit, and so I do some stuff there. And it's nice to go capture a screenshot when you do something you haven't done in either forever or ever at all. So that's handy for me. The other thing I use frequently is I turn off the UI in the game, and I have that bound to Alt X so that it's just me and the 3D space in front of me and not chat. I use Discord for in-game chat. I don't use in-game chat for in-game chat anymore.
Interesting.
Discord has pretty much replaced my communication in Dark Age of Camelot since I came back in October. And for me, that's been an extremely positive experience.
All right. We're going to flip through some more topics here. Trappers, good or bad for the state of RVR? Ooh, that's a loaded question. Is that a trap in itself? Here's what I will say about trapping. And maybe you guys have opinions on this as well. I'm sure you do. It's a new play style. I mean, is it good for the game? I don't know. I don't think inherently like it's great. But more power to you. If it is in your best interest to run out, trap a mile gate, and run back into a tower and AFK and do that for 12 hours to make 100K with a server bonus and an RP pot and bug up at the same time, hey, more power to you. But I don't know. I mean, I think with the in 1.127, they made some changes. I think it was 1.127. Correct me if I'm wrong. They made some changes to the Wizard Cloak. This is really an issue on Alb. For mids and hibs, because the trap groups are on Alb specifically. And a lot of this was occurring because the Wizard Loyalty Cloak allowed you to reset all of your abilities, all of the stuff that was on timers, like ML abilities. And so you could literally double trap plus put DT. It was not fun for people that ran across it. But it's changed. I see less trappers in the game now. And if there are people that still want to play that way, you know what? I don't, whatever. Are there any thoughts on this at all, or should we just move on?
I have a few things to add.
Go. Yeah.
Unless I think it's horrible for the game and I can't stand it. I don't like anything that you can get massive realm points for. And you may not see, 12 hours and 100K as massive realm points. But when you do that every day, that's 700K a week, and you're able to half AFK the entire time.
Sure.
And to me, I can't stand that. Anything that you can get realm points for doing little to nothing to gain, at that point, it's legitimately like run to a tower, get to the tower, and you can just start camping that tower, right outside with traps for hours until someone either comes and takes the tower, which oftentimes ends in them just Wilsoning from the tower, which is irritating in itself. Not to mention the fact that, like Ramek was saying, he's been seeing a lot less trappers. I don't think it's that. I think it's just you haven't seen them because they've been at Bold trying to trap my one solo player. They do that every time that I come to Bold. They all come out there with like 9 wizards and try and trap Bold climb points and stuff. I can't stand the play style. But like you had said, I don't think it should be taken in. I just personally find it very frustrating. And it makes it. I do think that it impedes on the fun of others to an extent. But I see the value in bombs. I just wish that there were more ways of destroying traps. Like, I don't like the fact that the only classes in the game that can do it is Sojourner, and I don't like how it's very, very consistent with traps. For example, going through mile gates, if you hide them on the inside of the wall, you can't see them going through them, so you just suicide through them, even though you took the time to scan for those traps. That kind of stuff like that really gets on my nerves. But I don't like when it comes to BG killing and stuff like that. That's the point of traps, and I see why they're in the game. I just wish that there were some small tweaks to them to make them less frustrating for the average player. But that's just my thoughts.
Well, there were thoughts there for sure. Pronder, we got to keep this kind of quick because we got a lot more to cover. But just give me your 5,000 foot view.
So I think they're fine. I think they're yet another unique play style in the game. People that want to talk about that's a lazy way to play, BGs are a lazy way to play, because a lot of people that are casual just go through there and surf and throw AoE stuff and get RPs, but it's a fun way to play. And I'm sure that the people that are trapping feel like it's a fun way to play for them too. There are people that just absolutely adore being able to go blow people up and do stuff. So I don't see anything wrong with it. There are ways in the game to counter it from different classes in all the different realms. People that are smart that drive a BG send somebody through a gate first to get blown up, and then they res them on the other side. So there are plenty of tactics to take care of it. But that's just another play style, and that's part of what makes this game so awesome, that there is so many different ways for people that enjoy doing different things to go have fun. And ultimately, we all hate having a pixel death because we always want to kill the other guy, but we all die sometime.
That's a very fair point. I love
well spoken.
Yeah, I love the differing opinions though here between the both of you. That's good. But I think you both make really valid points. Okay, so we gotta move on to this. Do armsmen need some love to bring them up to the same level of hero and warrior? I will start by saying yes. Bring back crossbow. That's all I got. Pronder?
I'll second that. They should have their crossbows back. I mean, it's literally the defining trait of their character on Broadsword's own website about armsmen.
Is it really?
Unless they changed it in the last week, yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. Crossbows like it should be a thing. And here's it's not the Armsmen are not heroes and they're not warriors. Alb is a very different realm. It's a realm that is like super raw. That's the only way I know how to describe it. I mean, Armsmen when the game launched didn't have power. Like not like Maulers and like Vamps don't have, like they did not have power on their bar at all. I mean not relatively new, but that's like a after launch edition. Armsmen are just Alb is just a fundamentally different realm. And it's very hard to compare them. Anyway, Bammers, go.
It's not on Broadside Sword. It's
This
on
is- this
the
is good.
wiki still.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Got it.
I was wrong.
No worries.
This is gonna sound crazy, but what do you like? I didn't even know. Like, did they lose crossbow? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, they didn't lose it.
Um,
It's just not. It's like I don't think I don't think it's
just
been
bad, is that what you're
updated.
saying?
Well, it's bad. I don't think it's been
Yeah.
updated.
I gotcha.
It needs love. I think that is like the only thing. That and maybe more people need to play Armsmen, which is not really an issue of Armsmen. They're just fundamentally different. The tank realm of the game is Midgard, right? They've got in my opinion, that's like the tankiest realm in the game is in terms of forming a tank group is at least in terms of the most potential is Midgard. I prove me wrong, but that's my opinion.
So my theory here is, I mean, generally speaking, I don't agree with that. I think Alb Tanker is actually the strongest. And when I say Alb Tanker, I mostly mean like Necro Arms Pal, and then your Tanker. And those three as a whole, like Armsman's Loyal Cloak guarantees hits through blade turn, so that makes them each swings 500-600 apiece, and there's kind of no stopping it. You can't stop an Armsman unless you try and kill or not if they've got a healer. So like, I don't know. I definitely think that there's some serious strengths to the class, but crossbow would be an interesting tweak. I would like to see what they do with it. I would just be afraid that they would go a little too far or something along those lines where they mess something up, because I do think Armsmen are in a good place right now. Generally speaking, that's like one of the classes that I love having in my group more than anything else. The toys that you gain with the class, plus its damage potential, and if you pair that with the right other classes and combinations, and Armsman AF debuff, an Armsman that's being AF debuffed by like a Necro with an insta-con debuff from Necro with Pally Celerity, I mean, you can 3-shot, 4-shot a lot of classes with that damage. So, I mean, there's still some good strength in the class. I don't think that the class itself is extremely weak in any way, but I do think that crossbow would be an interesting addition to change up, considering that it's been the same for 18 years.
Yeah, something like that. It's been a long time. And I think Reginald Black says something in chat that's a solid point. Alb is a superior realm. No idea why people don't play it. With a proper group composition, I think Alb has the best setup for 8s, period. At least when you're not like front loading your group with like, a particular class that does burst damage, right? Like a mid-savage group, right? When you sort of factor those folks out, traditional group compositions, I think Alb's just got it. But it's the problem is, you're right, people don't play Alb. People don't form good. We beat a dead horse with group compositions on this stream before. My God. And we'll do a resource podcast at some point. We keep promising it. I'm waiting on some other folks to drop in and join the party. We'll do it. But I don't disagree with you. Just people need to play it. Pronder, real quick, can I jump to the next topic, or do you have anything to add on that? Sorry, no? Are you thinking? No, okay.
That my mute button was acting up. No, I said I'm good. More people should play Alb. It's the underdog right now. Needs more players. It's been great seeing your 8v streams there. If work ever lets me have a life again, I'll probably start being a little more active there, but mid's always going to be my primary realm.
Yeah, let's hope for Pronder that he gets a break and has abilities to do other things other than work. Fueled in chat says the past 2 days I look for group for 6 hours on Alb, 0 group. Yes. Woke, right? Ross. Everybody, hopefully, a lot of you know who Ross is. Wove, his rank 12 cleric, also lone enforcer. Phenomenal player. Like top notch healer in the game. is sitting in Catterick Hamlet for hours at a time trying to find a group. It's not just you fueled. Alb has just been like that. It's been like that for years, and I think it's going to take a cultural shift over there for that to get fixed. Where Sticky says, Alb to me seems like each class does their own thing very well. Clerics, tanks, casters, speed, CC. Other realms are more hybrid, and some classes have to fill multiple roles. Absolutely, could not agree more. Okay.
It's in the name of the game. It is Dark Age of Camelot.
Right. That's a fair point. Do battlegrounds have value at this point? Do you learn DAoC tactics in them, or is it just better to get to 50 and go? Ooh, okay. Gronder, what do you think?
Battlegrounds still have a place. Everybody that yaps about, well, there's nowhere to go and there's nowhere to do anything. If you would just shut up and log in and go to a BG, you would find something to do instead of whining about it. I kind of have a hard stance on that. That we have plenty of places for people to go and do things if they will actually log in and go do things instead of whining about it. That is probably my biggest pet peeve in a forum is, wah, I can't do anything. And then there's like 7 other people going, wah, I can't do anything either. Group up and go do something. I see the same thing in BGs. People join for a PvE event to go do a curse run or something. Hey, looking for group. Hey, looking for group. And nobody will go /invite. And it's like, come on, man. Specifically about Battlegrounds, Molvik at the 39 Battleground is absolutely, if you're a new or returning player, a must stop. You will learn more about your class and about how to play in Molvik because of the sheer volume of people that do play there in a battleground before you get to 50 than probably anywhere else. Cathal Valley is usually pretty populated, but it's usually primarily either people that are already 409 and just park themselves there, and it's just a little bit too close to having too many RAs to roll over new guys, but Molvik seems to be a pretty good sweet spot.
Bammers, what's your take?
I didn't really sort of get into the BGs all that much anymore. Like I did when I first started. That's where I sort of basic understanding of a lot of the classes. But I mean, I see even earlier today, Jesse or Chaos Man on Al put in our Discord, hey, we're going to Molvik. Is there anyone interested? And there was like 2 groups of Hibs on. There's a group of Mids on. So I mean that experience goes on a lot of different levels, from small all the way up to 8-man perspective, I guess. So it does give you. I mean, I can definitely see a lot of utility gained from the BGs.
So what are BGs? Right? They are at least. Molvik, right, is really like the rawest form. Thid and Molvik are really like the rawest form of your class. They're as close to classic as you're gonna get. There's a ton of QOL improvements. Like I'm really like I'm painting with very broad strokes here, but they are as close as you're gonna get.
Molvik is classic, basically. Yeah. There's very few arties there. Nobody really has much realm rank. You can only train to 39. You can't have the bonus items that everybody talks about being OP, or it takes me a year to find a template. You can still spellcraft everything in Molvik, and there are people that absolutely love that and go there. Liervik, I believe, has a population as well, but Molvik usually, I think there's even a dynamic keep event there. So Broadsword's definitely given that BG some love, just based on the sheer amount of people that literally have 39s parked. I think I have 1 Hib that's 50. I have 5 that are 39.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Molvik tunes. I just specifically Molvik tunes that are fully temped and parked, and I don't play them at all anymore. Temps haven't really changed a whole lot of Molvik tunes over the years, but anytime that I run with a group that wants to go to Molvik on all 3 realms, I can pop on and play caster, tank, whatever. It's been a while, but I love that. I just want to go to chat real quick. So where Sticky said, I just went through the BGs and they seemed dead, so I went for the 50 and go route, except for Cathal Valley. Winston Duke says, Killalow is always active fights and that does not pick up with action until Molvik. Gear Bunny Classic says, Thid used to be considered the introduction to your class. Molvik is more for advanced tactics, and then Frontier was the master class. I like that. The master class. And Gear Bunny also says, I had a lot of characters that never left it because it was so much fun, or it was a source of its own fun. Ollie says, baby Battlegrounds. Ollie loves to play Battlegrounds. I know that for a fact. And Lazardin says, I remember Lion's Den. There was that guy that had a vamp templated gear, kill everyone. Extraterrestrial says, my family crew have or are working on Permatoons and Killalow, Thid, Mulvik, and Cathal. We keep them there because there's action regularly. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next topic. What does DAoC look like in 5 years from now? New game engine overhaul, bigger, smaller population? What would you like to see happen? Can we just skip this? Like, I think we've covered it. I don't...
I've got one thing I can add on that if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So I'm not going to touch on population, but what I will touch on is the client itself. So I've done a lot of digging and reading into DirectX, and specifically with Windows 10, how it's basically the last version of Windows ever, and what Microsoft has done with their DirectX 9 to DirectX 12 compatibility kits. They have made it almost stupidly simple to take a DirectX 9 game and make it a DirectX 12 game. There are even libraries out there that allow you to force launch a game and use similar to Reshade, but other methods to force the game to use DirectX 12 instead of DirectX 9. And as someone that has a 3060 Ti sitting here with DAoC running in DirectX 9 native mode without any bells and whistles turned on, it's using like 4% of the GPU.
Yeah.
If I force anti-aliasing on and force anisotropic filtering on and force ambient occlusion and go through and use the NVIDIA inspector and crank my graphic settings up like it's a modern game, and I'm documenting everything that I'm doing, and I'm going to ask for permission, and if I get it, I'll post it just like I did my instructions for how to scale the UI. I'm not going to post it if Broadsword doesn't sign off on it, but if they do, I will post how to make DAoC play like it's a 2021 game. I cranked this puppy up all the way to 11, and I literally got 85% GPU usage on a 3060 Ti in DAoC.
Wow.
With 135 FPS.
That's
and it
amazing.
Looks amazing. So I was running around in a couple of different places, but the best effect that I saw so far, I was outside of Svazadfast and it was snowing, and I ran down by the lake, and I had all the graphic settings turned up to 11, and the fog was really heavy and really dense, and because it was in DirectX 12 mode, the textures looked more real. I turned all the texture settings up on the game as well in NVIDIA Inspector, and watching the snowflakes glisten off of the water in the game looked about as good, if not better, than the Crysis videos that you see. So I'm working on getting this squared away, and I will literally be posting instructions if I get permission from Broadsword to do so. If I can't, I won't run this outside of testing it on Pendragon myself. But I'm really hoping that I can get their permission and their blessing to share this information, because it's not doing anything other than forcing the video card to run the game at ridiculously high settings that Windows 10 allows it to do.
I just want to pause for a minute and pick my jaw up off the floor. Can we just do that for a sec?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I don't have a lot of time to play right now. I haven't been leading raids lately because work's been nuts. But while work has been nuts, I can tinker with stuff like that. And so that's what I've been chasing is finding DirectX 9 to DirectX 11 and 12 wrappers, and what can I do with that, and reading that low-level information. So what I would love to see for DAoC within 5 years is, instead of me having to figure out how to do this with API layers and wrappers and things like that, I would love to see them just crack game.dll open and update their code from DirectX 9 to DirectX 12, recompile it, and allow you to use native options.
Do you think maybe that's part of what I speculate all you want? Part of maybe what they're thinking about doing in the new with the new.
If they do that as part of their relaunch, that would be amazing. I'm a huge DAoC nerd. I sub 5 accounts because I love this game to pieces, and I do all kinds of silly stuff on Gaheris with it. But I would probably sub a 6 just because I was that happy. Like, I would be buying Mithril all over the place in support of this, because one of the big reasons I have a huge passion for this game is this game has blessed me over the last almost 20 years with a lot of great memories, a lot of great people. And the longer that this is around and the more I can make those fancy memories and have those fancy moments in games with people, the better off everything is. This is what gets me through the day, thinking about what am I going to do with this instead of drowning on in a meeting at work or whatever. I think about a couple of things. One, I think about, all right, I'm going to go take the kids sledding, and that's going to be awesome, and we're going to go play in the snow. And then also I'm sitting there thinking, what else can I do to tweak this game that has provided me so much? I met my best friend in this game. I've made many good lifelong friendships in this game, and I want to see this game continue to succeed.
Again, I need to pick my jaw off the floor. I think we all have a connection, and yours is very strong. It is. I think all of us want to see the game succeed in one way or another. The vision's a bit different, I think, for all of us in terms of what exactly we want, but maybe we all share the idea that it will thrive, that there will be population, that there will be updates from developers, and just new content that keeps coming. The idea of upgrading the game to DirectX 12 is something I never considered, never thought of. Bammers, unless you have something, I gotta skip over. We gotta get moving on some of these topics. I don't know what your thought is there.
I'm good.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm good.
All right. So let's go. So there was a question in chat about scaling up the maps. There are several projects right now that are currently underway to try and make this a reality, and with TBD. But the best place to get in and to learn all of this stuff is to join my Discord channel. The link is in chat, and you can go in there. It's free to join. There's all sorts of great community, all sorts of information. If you are a Twitch or a Patreon supporter, make sure you have your Discord account linked, and you'll get access to Stream Supporters, which is a separate channel that is just for Patreon supporters and for Twitch subs. And there's a ton of information in there too. Okay. I appreciate the no question, just commentary episode with Bammers was excellent. Would love if you had a co-host. Hey, look at that. We got 2 today. 2 awesome folks joining us. And a big thank you to Bammers and to Pronner for being a part of this. The next step is, or the next question topic is, with the boom of 8-man action, how do you learn to 8-man? Do it? So my point of view on this is you do it just like you learn any other play style. If you want to learn a solo, you go out and you die a lot, right? With 8-mans, it's a little bit different. You need group cohesion, and so you're going to die with 7 other people a lot. But the more you and your 7 friends die, the better your group hopefully will be. Otherwise, you're doing it wrong. That's the goal.
What you just said, Gramick, was key, because there's a difference between a pug and an 8-man. A pug is you and 7 other strangers that decided to go play. An 8-man is you and 7 other people that are putting forth concerted effort repeatedly to learn to play together, to learn your classes together, to learn to get better together, to learn to communicate together, and to do that over and over again. And that's where it's really important to get into Discord, and where it's really important to get into a guild. Doesn't have to be a big guild. You don't have to go join the biggest guild on the server. You can be in a guild that just wants to focus on your 8 to 16 people that are on your roster. If you want a small man, you can join an even smaller one, or you can just roll your own and find some people to play with. But that's the difference between an 8-man and a pug, is that repetition and that learning how to play together. And until you want to make a commitment to play frequently and often with the same or similar people, that's not what most people consider 8-man.
Bammers, how do you get good? How do you get good at soloing? How do you get good at running an 8s? What do you have to do?
I mean, I think it was stated pretty well. Do it. Get out there and find people who you can run with as regular as you're able to run, and try to make something happen with it. Take it and go from there. You're gonna die. There's gonna be a lot of deaths that come with it, but the more you die, the more you learn, the better you get. And the more you can learn that and realize, I think someone said in chat, don't take your death from IRC as a thought on your group as a whole. I run groups that kill everything we fight and then lose to IRC in 30 seconds. I mean, that kind of, there's certain players who, you're going to struggle with no matter what, but those players don't take when you're getting told, what you should do better. Don't take that as them insulting you. Take that as an opportunity to grow as a player. And that's something that I've learned from Woke more than anything else. Even if there's someone that he doesn't believe is a better player than him, he just takes whatever they say as an opportunity to grow and learn, even if, because, there's still going to be times when you don't know something and someone who you think's a weaker player than you does know it. And that's still an opportunity to learn, even if you feel that way about them. So anything you can do to take that opportunity to learn will make you a better player in the end. And just trying to take every opportunity you can to learn is the way to get better.
Well
I think
said.
I repeated that like 9 times.
No, it's okay. It was well said. I think it's practice makes perfect, right? I also
Pretty much
worth like talking to people, and don't be afraid of going to some of these better 8-mans and saying, "Hey, I want to better my gameplay. Do you think you could pick me up every once in a while so I can kind of just see what you're doing?" Right? It doesn't hurt to reach out and ask. It doesn't hurt to reach out to any 8-man that's actively roaming and say, "Hey, like, if you ever want somebody to fill a spot, let me know. I'd be happy to join you." Or just ask maybe one of them to join your 8-man. Get a couple of, one of the things that I've learned, right, in the past couple of weeks, is if you don't have really good group cohesion, get a couple of really good 8-man folks that understand the class, understand the game, the fight dynamics, all that stuff, to join your group to carry you if you suck. Vu was giving me so much crap the other day about stunning Det 9 tanks. And it's like, yeah, okay, fair point. But I had Zoo and I had Bammers and I had Woke carrying me through those fights, and I was stunning Det 9 tanks. It's a no-no. I shouldn't have been doing it. But I got carried, so it's fine. Find people to carry you through the fights, and then you learn. You learn by those people making examples. I have no problem saying that. I'm not embarrassed.
And when you get told not to stun Det 9 tanks, or with the 9 tanks, just take that as an opportunity to grow and learn and continue on playing the game. Continue on in your groups.
It's
arguing and bickering between people is what makes it difficult for no reason.
It's interesting.
Like
you cut out at a very prime moment there, Bammers. I wonder if you were saying, sorry, Ponder, if you were saying if somebody tells you to not stun Det 9 tanks, then you shouldn't stun Det 9 tanks. Maybe that's what you were trying to say. I don't know.
No, I said if someone tells you not to stun Det 9 tanks, don't argue with them. That bickering does nothing. Take that opportunity to grow and learn and go with it.
Absolutely. Pronder, go for it.
But that is good advice. Don't stun Det 9 tanks.
You guys are silly. I love this. So what I was going to say, I've had conversations in Discord and in game with people about this specifically. If you're not willing to take constructive criticism, you're not going to do well in an 8-man. You have to be willing to talk to other players. And this is just like anything else in life. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to let somebody scream at you and say, "Hey man, this sucked. Don't do it again." Or laugh at you a little bit and say, "Hey man, that was kind of new. Don't do that again." And instead of just saying "don't do that again," they're going to tell you what to do. So I'll give a personal example of this. As a midi, I was running around in a small man with Oaken and Isaac, and the three of us were just absolutely wrecking stuff. And I'm the new guy that had just come back to the game, and I'm running around on my healers trying to remember how to play an AoC healer because it's been 7 years and I'm crusty as hell, and they're giving me a hard time. And I point blank told them, I said, "Look, you guys were willing to take me on, and you guys are both awesome players and good at doing what you do. Tell me what I'm doing wrong." And I was open about it when I first joined. I was like, "Tell me what to do. Give me that harsh feedback. I don't care. I've got some people have thicker skin than others. If you want to yell at me and call me everything except late for dinner, that's fine. I don't care. Other people are a little softer, and you have to take a bit of a different touch. So, and some of that depends on what kind of guild you're going to land in. Not everybody's going to log in and drink a box of wine like Tunjas and go have fun. Some people may just want to sit back and just chill a little bit, and other people may want to go get uber competitive. So it's about finding the community that you get plugged into that fits your play style, and you get those other happy people to play with, and that kind of fit your groove, and you will have more fun in this game with other people that fit your social groove to help scratch that itch, unless you're just a straight up solo player, than you will doing anything else.
Good point. I also, my common just response is when Zoo tells me I'm doing something wrong, I say, okay, Dad. And that just seems to work every time.
Does he have you holding a flashlight?
Yeah, every single time. So moving on real quick, I'm going to skip the, what do you think broadsword should do to bring back returning players? We've covered that a little bit. And we can maybe save that topic because there should be some stuff we can cover, but next state of the game. Next topic real quick, changing Convoker ML lines to Speed Warp is gone. This is a chat topic that was submitted by Ronnie 10. Changing Convoker ML lines to the Speed Warp is gone. Too much snaring in the game leads to way less action, plus reducing sauce to 20 seconds, max at level 5 to get rid of the minstrels and bards that can be caught or groups. Bammers, should Broadsword be removing speed warps? Should they be reducing sauce? What's the deal?
No and no. I don't like the idea of losing speed warp because there's a clear example of what happens when there is no speed warp. You look at some of these other servers who have no speed warp, and their game consists of tankers versus tankers all day long because there's no ways for casters to compete with tankers. What makes speed warp a strength is it allows casters to split the gap between tanks and casters to allow them to be free to cast. That is the only way casters beat tanks open field. That's what makes casters strong open field, is the ability to pull tanks apart and separate them. You can't do that if you take away their one major line of utility. Any caster group who plays casters regularly knows that if you don't have warps up, you don't hit whatever you're trying to fight, because warps are a key to winning fights. And I mean, sauce, I don't think that'll make a huge difference, but the number one thing that sauce is used for, and from my experience, is not necessarily to get away in terms of, a good group that runs together regularly. It's to reposition your healers. So generally speaking, that allows your healers to keep speed and keep surviving a longer period of time to keep your group alive. If anything, I think sauce as a whole is huge for, keeping fights going longer and making them more enjoyable. So I don't, to a certain extent, understand how that leads to less action. I get the idea being that they just, from running from people, but there's so many ways of running from people. By that logic, you'd have to take away like all of Archer's toys, because there's so many ways that people can kite with them, and kiting could include running. So that part doesn't really hold up to me.
That's true. Well,
but that's just my theory on it. Pronder may have a different idea.
Pronder, what say you?
I don't have an issue with it because there are tools to overcome it, and if you actually have people that pay attention in a BG, it's down in a couple of swings from a few tanks when they run by it. It's just more dynamics to the game. It's I don't think that in today's state, with the layout of how fast you can get across frontiers between the speed mounts with the saddles and porting all over the place and whatnot, I really don't think it matters that much anymore. I know there are people that say, hey, it slows down the action. I think it's not able to be quickly overcome enough where it doesn't really bother me that much. I know there are people that have other opinions. I respect their opinions, but I also think that if you do pull something out like Speed Warp or like Adjust Sauce or something along those lines, that you upset a balance that's been tweaked for 17 years, that's a known quantity, and you don't know exactly what else is going to happen from a fallout perspective of removing that. So like Bammers was saying earlier about other places that don't have that utility and what it really becomes. I truly believe that TOA was a very well thought out expansion. I think in the heyday of the game that there was a reason there were over 250,000 subs, and then WoW came out, and then everybody moved on that enjoys the PvE aspect of things. And since then, I think they've done a really good job tweaking the quality of life around the things that it added. But I think that Speed Warp specifically was a great add to the game. I think it makes people think before they do things, and this is very much a thinking person's game. And if you're not thinking about what you're doing, then you're just Zerg surfing, basically.
Good point. I personally, Speed Warps Speed Warps serve a purpose. We could talk about CC like in general is an entirely different conversation, and we're not going to go there today. But the idea that you would reduce sauce, right, or get rid of warps is, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around the idea of gameplay without warps or without sauce. Also, you're killing off the utility of minstrels almost entirely, because at that point, if they don't have sauce, you are essentially you're just putting a Thurgist in their spot and calling it a day, and you're killing off a class. And sauce plays a very important role in groups, and it's not just about extending, right? As Bammer said. Okay, we're going to jump to the next topic, which is population. Okay, that's population is population. I mean, we hope that there would be more players. I expect that over the course of time, it'll increase. Well, with the launch of Classic, here's what I will say, and I talked about this earlier today on the stream. Population ebbs and flows, right? This is true of any period of time. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up when there's a server bonus. It goes up during a holiday period. Usually after a holiday period and a server bonus at the same time, it drops back down again. It does this. In all three realms, it fluctuates too. People move between realms. There's BG leaders that come and that go. There are groups that come and go. Guilds that come and go. Population ebbs and flows and changes. Server bonus, certainly, if that comes back anytime soon, will bump the population up. Holiday periods do too. We just came off of a Christmas, Christmas and like December was full of holidays, right? We had New Year's. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, so things are already like completely messed up to begin with. And when people started to go back to work or started to have to like pick back up again, the population dropped. It'll come back. And that's just, it is what it is.
So I've got another comment on population. So
sure.
I mentioned it a couple of times, but I spent some time on Gaheris as well as Ewayne. We've actually seen an increase in population on Gaheris over the last month, and it has stayed, and it's continuing to grow. And between Reddit and Discord, we usually find about 5 new people a week, and I know it's not a large number, but it's still new blood. That come in and say, you know what, I really miss the PvE aspects of this game. I'm a casual player. I have no desire to RVR, but I do want to go check out what Nissy's Lair was like 17 years ago. That's still there. They want to come see it. They want to go kill a dragon. That maybe they just want to come out and instead of PvE and keeps with Hero, they want to actually come PvE keeps for real and go collect dreads. And there's actually, I think there's close to 50 realm rank 14s on Gaheris now. But it's a completely different mindset on that server, and there is by no means anywhere near the population there that there is on Ewayne, but it is the most pleasant experience I've ever had in a community population in this game. The people that are on that server are some of the most laid back and relaxed, chill folks you'll ever meet in a video game. They are more than willing to help anybody that asks. It has been awesome at all hours of the day. It doesn't matter if I log in at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 2 a.m. Somebody's always doing something, and they're always willing to let people come and help out. And there's even been raids starting again where there's no bots. So you hear people talk about people running teams of groups and stuff themselves. There's enough of a population now that there are weekly raids that are single player only. You can only play one tune there again. There's been some new blood breathed into that server, and it's been amazing. And for me, it's been great because with 2 little kids at home and a full-time job and everything else going on, maybe I just need to go take a nap, get up at 2 a.m. and log in for a little while and just go casually kill some mobs because that's fun for me. And over there, I always find somebody to go do it with. And we Discord and we BS, and it's been amazing. And there's actually been a lot of comments recently about other people noticing the growth of that particular server with its particular laid-back play style and how there's no toxicity there. Like, we've had comments in the past about how toxic the player population can be. That's a Uane toxicity problem. It's not a Gaheris toxicity problem. It's a completely separate mindset over there. And to be perfectly honest, it's quite refreshing. I think I said in Discord last week, if people on Uane would help each other 5% as much as people on Gaheris do, nobody wouldn't be looking for a template.
Good point. And despite what some folks in chat are saying, the Gaheris population has increased. It's not an enormous, wasn't an enormous player base, as of 6 months ago or 2 months ago, but over the course of the last few months, considering the numbers that they had, it is in fact on the rise, and that's pretty cool. And Pronder lays out a whole bunch of reasons as to why that is. So really quickly, I want to just take a brief moment and talk a little bit about Patreon. And you're all like, oh, Ramek, like you do this all the time. You talk about Patreon constantly. But it is literally, just hear me out for 30 seconds. It is the reason why we're able to do all of this stuff. The reason why the giveaways exist on the channel. The reason why, and to date, we've given away $8,500 worth of stuff since May of last year. It's the reason why we could stream every night. It's the reason why I put so much time and effort into it. There's content. I mean, there's even we've just added access to exclusive game data Discord channels, Alexa and IFT integrations. I just keyed her up. There's all sorts of really, really, really cool benefits that you get. The most recent one, and part of being a Patreon, especially a tier 3 or higher, is that there are some customizable things that I can do, but getting an idea of when KM is going to reset, because ALEXA shouts at me and says the game's about to reset. Silly feature, but very handy when you're running a group and you want to get in and kill everybody that's ported out that's AFK'd. So this is the way to support the stream, hands down, and I'm super appreciative. We'll go through a list at the end. We always roll credits. We'll talk about all the Patreon supporters, but if you want to support all of the work that we're doing, patreon.com/RamekMedia is the place to go. There are 4 tiers all the way up to Beard Crew. And Pronder is one of the Beard Crew members, and greatly appreciated. Okay, enough of a plug here. Pronder wants Alexa, to play Ya Ding Dong. And I'm sorry for anybody that has an Alexa at home and is now listening to that song. Okay, so let's just jump into chat real quick. So there's been a really interesting conversations in chat about everything from RP bonuses to battle groups, a free-to-play model. I want to cover that real quick. Lyra says if they would have thought about the free-to-play model a little more, they'd have more players regardless of holidays. Here's what I'll say about Endless Conquest, and I say this, I think, every single State of the Game stream. Endless Conquest is a vehicle to get you to sub. It is not intended, at least in my opinion, and I don't think I'm wrong about this, it's not intended to be a permanent free-to-play solution. It gets you sucked in enough. Could you free-to-play on Endless Conquest indefinitely? Yeah, you could. With limitations, absolutely you could. And they've increased those limitations over the course of time, or decreased them rather. You can now run Supremacy pots on an Endless Conquest account, which you couldn't do before, right? There's things that are changing. but it's meant to be, in my opinion, a vehicle to get you to sub. And I think that's the brilliant part about it. Broadsword with microtransactions, the MTX store, all that stuff, they're doing really, really well. EA, Broadsword, whoever gets the revenue cut at the end of the day, is doing extraordinarily well because of the work of Broadsword, Greg with all of the art, and all of the other folks that are putting in ideas to create like the new Snow Fox and the wings and all the seasonal items. But free to play is not free to play in DAoC, as far as at least from my point of view. I think that it's a vehicle to get people to sub. That's my 10 cents on that. Baba Malama says, I logged in under EC, saw that I could do basically nothing and resubbed within a day. It worked, right? It worked. And Where Sticky says, I started with Endless Conquest, wasn't sure if I wanted to fully come back. And then I found y'all and decided to resub. Look at that. What do you know? Semi-free to play is what Gear Bunny Classic says. Okay, next topic. I have a question. When was the last expansion? Was this from I feel like this might have been from last week. I feel like we talked about expansions last week. Or the week before. Sorry, there wasn't a state of the game last week because I had laryngitis. And then I think I teased Bammers because Bammers doesn't buy games in boxes. Was that right, Bammers? I think that was like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've never played it.
All right.
I'd never seen the box until the last state of the game that I was on.
Oh yeah. And by the way, so I'm not going to turn around and show you now, but Pronder's got a collection of boxes, and I just got my collection in two. Pronder might have them readily available. Mine are like in that shelf back there, and I'd have to turn around, and there's cords everywhere. But yeah, it's it's pretty cool to have like collections of DAoC boxes, especially from the early 2000s. When like I went into my local game store and bought DAoC and all the expansions. Anyway, I digress. Okay, we're going to wrap this up by just covering, there's a few more topics here, and I want to go through them bit by bit if I can. This is out of a really great letter that was written by Jake Hatteron, who put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm going to ask if it's okay for me to share the letter. But there's like there's a lot of it's I think it's really great, and it's like one of those honest to goodness, like really straightforward. He says it's okay, great. A really great letter that doesn't hold any punches, that I think is really to the point. And there's some criticisms of Broadsword, which is okay. We can be critical, we can disagree with decisions that they make as long as we're not bashing devs. And there's also like some positives to it. But anyway, let's cover. There's a couple of things that I pulled out of that letter that I want to talk about. The first thing is there are places, structures, and caves, and even mobs that hurt the eyes. For example, the texturing of Galadoria is very out of date. How long would it take with an artist on staff to renovate the graphics on the walls? Maybe if that takes 1 week to draw the tiles and the props. I have to say that although I do not practice the profession, studied game design, he studied game design, so he knows a little bit about what he's talking about. So, Gronder, you know more about this than I do. And we have seen texture updates to the game. We saw it in Housing. And by the way, that was done by Greg, who is not part of like the development team in a sense where he's like coding anything. That didn't take any resources away from the bug fixes and the development of Classic and all that stuff. That's the great thing about Greg doing this. So, Pronder, what's the likelihood of us seeing textures get updated over the course of time?
I mean, we've seen textures get updated already to some extent. They've proven that they're willing to do it with the updates in Housing. Catacombs expansion in and of itself was new textures for almost everything laid over the classic models, and you can still select the playable models themselves, and you can turn off on your option screen whether or not you're using Atlantis terrain and whatnot. So those are all different textures. The game engine definitely supports it. I think that it's plausible that we could see that potentially. If I was running that show, basically what I would do is once the new server is launched, my next big thing, like a year later, would probably be an update of textures, but I would want to get all of the technical plumbing right so that updating things like textures actually looks even better. So what I was talking about earlier, as far as updating the game client to using DirectX 12 native calls and things like that, get all of that stuff done first so that when you are re-releasing a zone with updated textures, that it looks stellar. That can be done even with the Gamebryo engine as it is, as long as, I mean, there are other games that are out there that have taken the Gamebryo engine this game is based on and pushed it forward into a more modern appearance. So as long as they get all the plumbing done to facilitate it looking stellar, I'm all for it. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens.
Can we safely say that with texture updates and a conversion to something like DirectX 12, that the game would feel a lot more modern than
absolutely.
It does? Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, just the DirectX 12 rendering and forcing anti-aliasing to at least 8x, if not higher, and the aniscopic filtering to 16x, which pretty much anybody that's got a 750 Ti or newer can enable those settings. It looks amazing. I have a nice video card because I got lucky on release day, but my CPU is still an FX 8300 from 6.5 years ago, and it's fine. So it's really just about allowing the client to know how to use these new libraries that the OS natively provides. And then even without texture updates, the game is going to look amazing. So I would be extremely excited to see what happens if they decide to start updating structures or zones or caves or whatever. Like when I zoomed in on the ground in Tir Nanog, it looked like a picture of the grass. It was amazing.
Wow. I've seen some. I saw I think one screenshot that was in our Discord. By the way, if you're not a member of our Discord, there's a link in chat. You should absolutely go get in on it. But if you're a member of the stream supporters, if you're a Patreon supporter or Twitch supporter, Prounder posted a picture of what this looks like in TNN, and I think it was TNN, right? It looked awesome. Okay, so the next question, as part of this letter from Jay Catteron, is many of the mobs, it's sort of a similar question. Many of the mobs in the game are repeated, for example, in Galadoria, with there's 10 different mobs. I'm sure that in 2 weeks, a person is capable of renewing the textures. I no longer get into the modeling of the mob, just renewing the textures and updating them a bit. So yeah, I don't think this is actually a huge stretch. We've seen it we've seen it done in housing, and also a lot of the textures are repeated in the game. Right? They're not individual textures for, there might be some that are used specifically in a zone or two, but a lot of the textures are reused in different elements of the textures are reused. And they could put a facelift on the game if they redid some of those. It is a matter of manpower, if you will, to get it done. And so the question is, I know that Broadsword's got a team of folks that are doing graphics. It's not just Greg. I know that I think they've brought some people on remotely based on, again, some of the digging that I've done. I could be wrong about that, but everything that I've seen tells me that they've hired more folks to do it. Maybe that was for UO. Maybe that's for DAoC. I think the option is there. The possibility is there. This is for Bammers, and then we'll go to Pronder. The next question is, if you want to temp a character these days, there are only 2 or 3 items per slot that are useful for this. We're playing a game, and I think there's more, right? But in terms of modern day stuff, we're playing a game with 7 expansions, hundreds of mobs, thousands of drops, and we're only able to use 2 per slot. And then Jake Hotteron asks, is it true that there are expansions and drops that do not have TOA bonuses, uses procs, mythical caps, and other things? Yes, that is absolutely true. There are a lot of, or he says it is true. It's not a question. Yeah, there are lots of drops that do not have any of those things at all. A lot of the classic items, ROGs specifically, a lot of ROGs don't have them. But all those objects and statistics are nothing more than a database that can be changed by hand. It's not necessary to hire the best animator in the world, nor the best modeler, nor the best programmer. So here's what I'll say about that I want to get Bammer's take. So it's more than just hiring a programmer or a modeler, right? There is every decision about balance. When starting from items, going all the way to class balance stuff. It's like a 5,000 foot view. The person has to really be like emotionally removed and look at the hard data and watch all of these fights unfold and really understand, because adding an item with a particular use to the game might seem like a very small thing and inconsequential, very easy to do in a SQL database, right? To just change some stuff around, launch a new item. But how does it affect every single class in that game, right? Whether they can equip it or whether they're going up against it, how does it balance? So it's super easy for them to add items. This is not a difficult thing. It's very easy for them to add new skins. This is not a difficult thing. But in terms of usability, it's a really, really heavy lift to just make one small change. Imagine Mythic in the beginning, right, had 100 people plus working on this game, and teams of folks that were dedicated to individual realms and balance, and big discussions about this. I've talked to some of these folks that were at Mythic at the very beginning. I've interviewed some of them. I'm really excited to share some of that with you coming up. But this is not a 100-person team that's working on DAoC now. And so these really small, are seemingly inconsequential changes are actually like they take a lot of effort. And now it's more like trial by fire than it is doing a ton of Pendragon, doing some big BG fights and some 8s and stuff. They test internally. But man, it's way more difficult than just adding a line in a database, because there's a lot of thought that goes into it. Bammers, what do you think in terms of like the availability of items and the different items that can be used on, just pick a class, right? Do you think there needs to be like, if we could just like hire a person for Broadsword to do this, do you think that would be the best use of their time? Do you think there needs to be more items, less items? Tell me what you think.
I like the current state actually, because in my opinion, there's a big enough list of items that you can make templates that have very similar stats, entirely different ways with different procs, different uses based on how you want to play it. And that templating is quite literally like one of my favorite parts of this game. I have built probably 44 temps or so in the last month. I legitimately build like one a day at least. I just love messing with them and trying to build different options for different characters. And I think there's plenty enough to make stuff work in today's game. The problem new items and new the implication of what it could lead to in the end. We're already at a point now where you have people who have mastered a temp on a character to being so hard to take down if he's got all charges up, gets lucky with procs. Like, they've already made some classes very difficult to take down one-on-one, and if you stack that with new items and higher stat caps and stuff like that, even if your goal isn't to increase the delves of anything, I don't think that you're going to be able to find a world where you don't do that accidentally. And I think that especially it's even more so when you add charges and other things like that. So that's my thought process on it. Is I think that there's a lot of room for error for something that doesn't really need to be changed, because there's plenty of stuff that's available at the moment.
Pronder, do you have any thoughts on this?
So I kind of like where things are now. I like that you can also skin things with MTX and change how they look. But I don't know. I don't think that adding more things to the mix is probably a good idea at this point. I mean, you look at some of the bonus levels on like the cursed and the otherworld items, and there's already a really good mixture of different types of items to put together with different uses. I would be less interested in more things to try to build a template with from a balance perspective for players. And I would be more interested in seeing maybe some more new race class combos or something along those lines. I don't think we need to continue to add more items. I do think that with the way that bounty crafting works, that it's made things a lot easier to get what you're looking for. You go on a cursed raid and you're pretty much set. If you can find somebody who wants to run 9 and 10, that's even better. I think that we need more people running raids to help people get templated. I believe that so much that I've started running raids myself because I saw a gap in Midgard from a lack of events. So I ran a few there, and I'm probably, when work settles down, I'm going to start running some on Alb as well. It seems like there's some in Hib fairly consistently, but I don't really think we need to add anything else. I would love to see potentially ways to reskin some things by using things that aren't mithril for people that don't want to spend real money. I think there should be some ways that you can spend plat to do that as well, but maybe not to the same extent. And maybe there is, and I'm just not familiar with it because I've only been back for a few months and haven't delved into that side of the house that much. But I don't think adding more things that potentially upset more balance, when the biggest thing people are asking for is classic, right? You always hear classic, classic, classic. Classic also means wiping out 10 plus years worth of items that have been added to the game.
Yeah.
Usually is what people are asking for. So when the most vocal people that are asking for something new are asking to roll back where we are or where we were to 17 years ago, I don't know that it makes much sense to add new items.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's way more involved. People want classic, but they don't. I think. Well, I don't want to blanket folks, but people don't understand, I think, generally what that really means, which is going back to square one. And like it or not, TOA brought a lot of quality of life improvements. Increases for like things like cast speed and damage and all sorts of stuff that it is, I think a lot of people on UAIN would find painful to be without. I just want to go to chat real quick. Casper flew in. Hello, Casper. Good to see you. Giving Bammers some crap about templates. That's all good and well. Sounds like Bammers is going to have to make some templates for Casper to send over. I think that's on the horizon for us next. From my point of view, I want to see, and Gear Bunny Classic and with Fusion has done a great job with this. Hops with DAoC Utils has done a great job with this. The website is still, there's a lot of templates that are no longer accessible, unfortunately. But making templating easier is, I think, for me, the larger focus here. I don't know if there's any easier solution, or if there's any a solution I could pull out of a hat right now that would make that the case. We talked in prior State of the Games about the idea of like a basic checklist for things like uses and items that like everybody needs, right? Like everything that a charge tank might need or that a caster might need, just at a very basic level. And I know Gear Bunny Classic has talked about potentially adding those things into the program, but for me, that's like at a broadsword level. And I think there just has to be a second pass at how templates are made and making them more accessible to people. Not like getting the items itself, but actually like putting a template together that makes sense, that has everything that you might need. And there's so many variations to templates because people play classes very differently. My Mauler temp, Caster Mauler, looks very different than a Fist Wrap Mauler temp, right? It just does. And I am not, my quickness is low on my Cast Mauler temp because I really shouldn't be pushing in and swinging the staff. But there are folks that might want to have more quickness, might want to up their swing speed, for a whole host of reasons, and might redo the temp differently because they want a higher swing speed. Just a one of many examples. Templating, I think, is maybe the most challenging part of the game, and I don't know if there's any amount of documentation that would fix that. I think it's just a matter of Broadsword just taking a fresh second look at this. Because, yeah, with bounty crafting, you can get just about anything these days. I want to move on real quick to the next topic, which is if you update the stats of the objects in Galadoria, again, an example, for more MLs, DF, Shrouded Isles, artifacts, and other areas, templates would be very different from each other. It would be more interesting, more fun, and cheaper to make. This is also from Jay Calderon. And I think I think we could all agree there. A question submitted by JD a few minutes ago, just sliding in right there. When was the last time they opened up a BG event for 50s? That was a few months ago. Pronder, were you around for that event?
Nope, I missed that one.
Okay. I think that was probably a good thing. Bammers, were you were around for that, right?
Yes, sir.
And how
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it, really? What did you enjoy about it?
It
Just
was
like
fun.
playing Shadowblade, or like what were roaming eights? What were you doing?
I did. I ran a lot of that was going on. Me and Royal Flush were still running together pretty regularly, so it was like me, Ross, Vu, Next, and a few others. So we had like a 5-man that we were running, and we had a lot of fun during that time.
Okay.
But it wasn't like we were playing a whole lot more than we normally did. It was just something to break the monotony. I enjoyed it though.
I think it was at a really interesting time. It coincided, I believe, with one of the Keep events, and I got schooled last week because apparently I said Dragon Keep and Ghost Keep interchangeably, and I guess they're totally different things. And I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, so don't expect me to remember the difference between those two. But it was during one of those events, I believe. Herorius was running a BG quite frequently during the day and also during US prime time, and Albs were. This was pre loyalty cloak nerf, and there were a lot of trap groups, like hordes of Albs that were just trapping and running into the PK. Also, like, for people who don't remember what it's like to fight in those old style keeps, right? The original old frontier keeps. Go and play in like an 8v8 or a Zerg event in a battleground, and you tell me how much fun it is to have all of those old line of sight issues and all of like the crazy strange things that happen in those keeps that still exist today. Right? How much fun it is to play in that. It is like super challenging because half the time the keeps sometimes they break, line of sight is crazy, people are nuking through walls. It was nuts. And then you had a BG that exploited a particular thing, and a few people got suspended. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I'll tell you that like the last time I had a ton of fun in a BG event was probably in 2015, and I was running with Waxy a lot. And Waxy and I went through, I don't know, on 2 or 3 occasions and made like 400k in a few hours. It was nuts, the amount of RPs that Waxy and I made together. That was the last time I had a ton of fun in the BG event. And there's
Can I
also
throw one more thing in there too?
Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing that I did actually really enjoy about that BG event was the trappers that we were talking about earlier. There wasn't a whole lot of places for them to place them, so they placed them in the same place every time, so it was super easy to avoid where they were. And that made it more fun because in that small area, those traps, if there's not a whole lot of area to go to, those traps become a lot more valuable if they're able to wipe like groups and stuff off the map. When it comes to like, the BG, if they're on EV, just dodge EV, there's still 3 massive zones. But in that small zone, the way they had the map laid out was like perfect for kind of not having to deal with that, which was nice for me because like I said, I can't stand dying to that kind of thing. I also, since there was only, like one place to put them, I regularly like ran over them with phase shift on purpose just to like get them all out of the way so no one else would die to them. Like I did that kind of stuff regularly. So I had a lot of fun kind of trolling the trappers with that thing there during that event. Just throwing that out there too.
I believe it. I don't know. For me, it was just my experience does not equal everybody else's experience, obviously. I had less fun in that particular event, even though I begged Broadsword for a BG event. In hindsight, like, I don't know. I think my experiences in the past are better. There's one particular BG that I think works really well. Is it like that special one that only opens up that's got like a center island and like all of the portal keeps are on like little separate spaces that are attached by bridge? What's that one that I'm thinking of? It's got a huge mountain in the middle of the map, and like you go up. Is it Caledonia? It must be Caledonia. Okay, is that no? It's not Caledonia.
The only complaint I had really with the thing was that I personally love the set layout of New Frontiers. I like playing assassins. I like camping keeps. I like lighting keeps up. I like pulling action to me. And with the BG event added in, yes, it brought more population back to try it out and have some fun during it. There was still the downside of the fact that it kind of split the population, or it even cut it even more than half from the Frontier side to the BG, which I personally didn't love because I enjoy the New Frontiers aspect so much. But it wasn't a super long event, so it didn't matter to me. I just spent the time that I would have played in Frontiers there for, what was it, a weekend, and then called it a day there and went back to what I was normally doing and had fun either way. So, I mean, being that it was a short event, I enjoyed it. But if it would have went on for a long period of time, it definitely would have hampered the fun that I was having.
I agree. I agree with you. Also, it is Casper Gata. It's Lervik. That's the one. There it is. That's for me. That is like the ideal map because of the terrain and all the hiding spots. There's all of these little features that you can get in. That for me, that's the, if you're going to open it up to level 50s, I think Lervik is the place to go. Also because I think doesn't Lervik have some of the newer keep models too? I'm pretty sure it does. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure the portal keeps at Lervik are new, and therefore I think the center keep might be as well. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to open this up really quickly to chat topics. Last call. If you guys have some questions that you want answered to, we're going to wrap. This has been quite a long state of the game. If you missed a good chunk of this, it's available on Discord as a replay. It's going to be available on YouTube tonight, and it's also released in podcast form on all of your favorite podcast apps. All you have to do is search for DAoC State of the Game. It's on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, you name it. It's Stitcher. It's available on any of your favorite podcast apps. Again, all you have to do is search for DAoC State of the Game, and every new episode is posted by 5 a.m., and I regret making this decision early on. It's posted by 5 a.m. the next day because I'm up all night editing it. This one is going to be way easier because of these two awesome co-hosts that I have. Again, we'll close this out in a minute, but these two guys made it exponentially better tonight. And I'm really hoping that we get to do this more often. There was some conversation earlier about relics being kind of a thing of the past, relics not being interesting anymore. I mean, I have to agree with you. For me, relics are not really viable anymore. We can allow that. Oh, Ollie blocked Noodle. Sorry, Ollie, didn't mean to override you. I don't. Sometimes chat gets really interesting. And occasionally we've got by the way, a big shout out to our mod team. Also, we've got an amazing mod team. Ollie is on board constantly, like 24/7. Also the biggest contributor ever to the channel. Biggest supporter by far. We've got Ollie and Legan and Keed and Jerem, and Toonses, our amazing mod team. Casper's got a question, which is thoughts on weekly quests. Is 35k enough? Bammers, do you want to take this one first?
Honestly, I have to think about that question because I have to, like, at first glance, no, it seems really low. But I with the way the RPs are currently laid out, I think I would like to have to see it in action before I can make a good judgment call on it. But I think that it's actually going to be fine for the moment. Any bonus is better than no bonus, the kind of the way I look at it. So I'm not complaining. I think that, it's considering it's 35K base and you can add 50%ers to that and other bonuses to that. I mean, with a 50, you can regularly get, probably close to 50, 60K off that. So can't really complain about that. If it's just added on for playing the game the way you would have played it before, no real reason to complain. I'm happy with it.
I'm with you. I don't think there's a ton of reason to complain. Casper does have a great point. He follows up by saying, I can say for my mini at least, and I feel you on this, getting 50 solos is worth way more than 35K. Getting solo credit is almost impossible. On a pet stroll, that is so true. I'm talk about that on the next state of the game. But yeah, I'm with you.
They do class-specific quests and have a different reward based on the level of difficulty of your class. So let's say, like you're just talking about a mini, it's almost impossible to finish a solo quest. Maybe if they implemented a class-specific quest type, they could tweak it a bit.
That's actually a great idea. My initial thought though is that Broadsword is going to resist doing that because they're going to be accused of playing favorites, which I don't know how that really pans out in the real world. I mean, there's a lot of like toxic people, right, that are out there, but I think that's a valid like approach. I just wonder if there's
suggestion.
To be fair, there's legitimately like no solo minstrel players anymore anyway. Like that's not a class that is very easy to solo on. Not to mention the fact that there's just not a lot of people who enjoy playing them in general anymore, at solo anyway, because it's so much work to get kills and stuff. So it wouldn't like, I don't think that you should really cater this entire bonus to this one class that's not it's not played super often in solo. And I mean, I think that where they shine isn't even in solo, it's in groups. And I don't know, it's kind of like catering like solo quests to like support classes. I just don't really know if that's the play, considering that there's, I don't know. I'm trying to word this and not make it seem like they're not strong solo, because Minstrel's like one of the strongest solo classes in the right hands. But it's just like, I don't think that that's a reason to change the quest or go out of your way to make a solo quest entirely for it. That's just my thoughts on it.
But
though.
The pet stroll, Bearers, the pet stroll.
Look, I played a solo minstrel a lot. I mean, I have a rank 11 minstrel. I dealt with that same issue everybody else did. But I mean, to be fair, your pet does like 90% of your fight for you. It's just you keeping yourself and your pet alive most of the time. I'm not saying you shouldn't get solo credit, because it is unfair that you don't and everyone else does. It's like, I don't really know the solution, but I don't think changing the quest for every class is the solution. But like Ramik said, if you change it for just the minstrel, then you're playing favorite. So there's no really good solution, I don't think.
What do you think, I wasn't suggesting to just change it for just a minstrel, but if they did want to tweak it to be class specific, like if they know that the level of difficulty of completing it on a sin is different than on a support class, for example, maybe the reward is higher. I don't know. It's at the end of the day, I don't really think that they would do something like that, to be honest, but just throwing it out there as an idea. There are many other things that could increase quality of life in the game other than customizing quests based on class specifics.
Agreed. And then there's also the factor of like, you also can't base it off of spec either, because like, it really screws over pet strolls. But if you play like a solo tank stroll and your entire character is based around you doing the damage with maximizing, your damage on your insta DDs and stuff like that, and you trying to, you only really run like a blue pet to kill, break your own CC, like that's another play style that's very effective too. And, there's tons of videos online of people playing like that. Well, if you build it around, if you change the whole thing, like you can't really change it for that one spec, because there's a lot of different specs that make it work. I mean,
you don't want to see melee bards out there?
I mean, they already are a thing. Like they exist.
Lithat has an amazing battle bard video. Well, Lethet's got
Yeah, I mean,
amazing videos, just like up and down, left and right. But
yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think that's like when you first said, specific to your class, I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool if it was like get 50 kills with PA or something like that. So you'd have to like, get someone low life and then like reset, re-stealth and get a PA off to get your quests complete, like making them like dynamic or something. And then I was like, well, what if you don't spec for PA? So then you just can't complete that quest anymore. Like, I don't know. I just like, that's what kind of came to my mind. I was like, well, that doesn't really work either, because then you're having to build it for the class without spec being a factor at all. So you can't build it around the pet because not every spec runs a pet. So it's like there's just so many things that goes into it. I don't really know what the solution is.
Casper corrects me. It's Lithlet, not Lithet. Sorry. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate it. All I know is that the music is really annoying, but the play is nuts on those videos. It's really good. Okay. We're gonna wrap the stream. I mean, 2.5 hours, longest state of the game that we've ever done, and also the most viewed off the bat. But I will tell you that the podcast and the YouTube video, like, I'm incredibly grateful to all of the folks that tune in, and again, wanting to support the work that we're doing, trying to create all of this awesome stuff. Patreon.com/RamicMedia is the place to go to get to support the stream, get exclusive content, access to custom data feeds, all sorts of fun stuff. I want to very quickly thank our guests, Pronder Noor. You can find him at prondernoor.com. Also, you can join my Discord. He's got a whole community tab in Discord and tons of cool stuff that's posted there. Pronder, just give us a shout out. Tell us what you're working on.
Yeah, so I started my website because when I came back to the game, I started realizing that I'm getting a little older now, got glasses now, need to see things a little bit better. So I started working on gathering together resources for things like a higher resolution UI that plays well on a modern 1080p or 1440p screen. So I started documenting what I'm doing there. I actually found a UI in the forums called Tubbins UI that someone else had done and abandoned after they had to stop playing. So I went and updated that to work with 1.127 and posted it. I've got instructions on the website for how to scale your UI using the built-in Windows features. Reached out to Broadsword just to make sure it was cool. They reviewed it and said, yep, so it's up there and shareable. I've got some 4K maps of New Frontiers that someone asked me to help them make. So I've got that up there as well. Anything else that I'm working on that is okay to be posted public, I'm going to continue to toss up there. And I do have the channel in Ramic's Discord because I didn't see the sense in setting up my own when all I'm doing is some random stuff. And this is a great community to be a part of, and I'm happy to be a community partner with Ramic and everything he's got going on. This has been great to get plugged into since I stumbled across it in August, and I've really enjoyed watching the stream and being a part of the community, and was happy to be here this evening.
Well, thanks, Pronder. We appreciate it, and I really a huge supporter of the stream, creating great content, working on all sorts of quality of life stuff. Pronder's instrumental to the community. And Bammers is known for his solo Shadow Blade play, being a killer necro, all-around good guy, master templater, although Casper is, I guess, a bit apprehensive. But you could find him at twitch.tv/Bammers. That's BAMURZ. Bammers, do you have anything that you want to plug real quick and tell people what you're working on?
No, sir. Just thanks for having me on. Enjoyed being here. I know I just kind of last minute was like, hey, you mind if I join? But I enjoy joining, and I enjoy reading the chat and keeping the conversation going. And I think that the more conversation you have, the better we can grow all together. So thanks for having me on.
I completely agree. Also, I do think it's worth noting that if you find a 3080, 3070, 3080, or 3090, that you should reach out to Bammers, because Bammers is in the market for a graphics card. So if maybe that's the thing. If you happen to get the drop on one of those, let him know.
I'd prefer 3080 or 3090.
Yeah, one of those things that's hard to get. I do very quickly want to thank, first off, thanks to Pronder and to Bammers. Want to thank our Patreon supporters as always. And a huge thank you goes out to Siambra and to Pronder for being Beard Crew members. That's the highest amount of support for the channel. To Borgio and to Carol and to Nargothrond for being It's Not Over, which is tier 3. To Bellamar and McPherson for saving the game. And Andrew Stroops, Arcanix, AK Extraterrestrial, God's Demon, Neomatrix, Ollie, Keed, Sticky Note, Veneer Violin, and Bloodcore. Thank you guys for rounding it out as the Winners Club, the Winners Crew on Patreon. Again, supporting the stream could not be easier. Patreon.com/randomicmedia is the place to go. You can get that monthly contribution and then you get access to a ton of stuff. Until next time, be safe, wear a mask. No stream tomorrow. We'll be back on Thursday, 7:45 p.m. and some giveaways at 8:30. Have a great night.